All right, today we're doing something a little bit different, and I'm not just talking about my assembly table desk here. Today we're talking about design, and we're gonna get a little bit thoughtful and maybe a little more philosophical about things. The one question I get asked the most and answer the least is, how do you design furniture? And it's the hardest thing to explain and to teach and to learn and to understand. So it makes sense that people are curious about it. Learning the techniques to actually build something is kind of the easy part. It's similar to learning to ride a bike. If you practice it enough times, you'll eventually get the hang of it. But going from absolutely nothing to an idea and then taking that idea, turning it into a design that's actually buildable, seems like the place where the most people get lost, and it makes sense because that's just a hard thing to do. I also don't consider myself a design expert by any means, and I was never taught or formally trained in any design, though I guess I did take a couple years of art school. But I think that's what makes my approach maybe a little more relatable to everyone else. And obviously different people have different approaches. So again, this is the way I do it, and maybe it will help some people. So, I've developed the Sean system, or more simply, 5 quasi
tips or techniques, not rules, that will maybe make you a better designer, or at the very least, help you understand why things might look weird to you, and maybe how you can make them look less weird to you, more simply.
First quasi-tip thing, start with a vibe. I'm gonna assume you already know what you wanna build, like a chair or a table, but if you don't, pause this video, think for a minute, and now we can get into the vibes. So vibe is kind of everything. It's the way something makes you feel when you look at it, and the way you feel is kind of everything. So when you look at a piece of furniture and you feel a specific vibe, that's the feeling that we want to try to replicate or develop in our own designs. Do you want a piece to be warm and inviting, or sleek and mechanical? Maybe you want it to be heavy and brutalist, or light and airy. Is it going in a quaint mountain cabin, or that insane, weird concrete mansion the founder of Oakley built in the Hollywood Hills? Though, depending on your definition, that could also be a quaint mountain cabin, just depends on your vibe, I guess. But no matter what you're going for, just decide what you're going for. Putting a thick concrete top on a super light wooden base might look a little bit weird, but also if you're going for weird, then go for it. Just be deliberate. Failure in design doesn't necessarily come from whether or not the most amount of people like what you came up with. It comes from whether or not you like what you came up with. So deciding on your vibe right off the bat puts you on that path to help you stay focused and not let your mind go in like a million different directions. But developing the ability to edit and refine your ideas down to the core is one of the more critical and difficult things to do. There's a huge difference between choosing to make something weird and it becoming weird because you didn't really commit to anything in the first place. Okay, so once you have the vibe you're going for, we can start to get these ideas into the physical space. And a lot of people, I think, want to start straight away with digital modeling, 3D modeling of some sort, but I almost always start with paper and pencil, sketching things, even though my sketches are usually terrible. All I'm trying to do is just start to visualize those ideas. If I'm wanting to do something light and airy and maybe curvy, I'll just start sketching really abstract shapes long curves, light intersecting lines, or if I'm going for something maybe more heavy and geometric, I'll start drawing those abstract shapes, squares and heavy lines. All I'm really trying to do is get a feel for that vibe on a piece of paper. And this is because the vibe is going to help dictate and drive the design forward with all the upcoming decisions, joinery, measurements, even the material I'm going to use. It's all going to stem from this vibe that I'm figuring out. And I just need to know at this point what this piece is supposed to feel like. Next tip, number 2, why, with a hard H, proportion matters. Why proportion matters. And this honestly might be the most important part of design. The proportions of a piece are probably the first thing that people notice. And honestly, it's so intertwined with the vibe of a piece that it kind of is part of the vibe. If you're walking around somewhere and something catches your eye, chances are, and I'm not saying this is 100% of the time, but chances are it's your brain subconsciously reacting to the proportions, not the details. It's probably the easiest thing for us to kind of interpret. We can see and understand proportion from a distance. So before we even have a chance to, maybe see the wood up close or see those perfect miters, you've already, subconsciously or not, decided if you like the silhouette of a piece. I could make a chair out of 2x4s and drywall screws, but if I make it with the proportions of a beautiful looking chair, I'm gonna like the way it looks. And on the flip side, I could use the best wood in the world, I could use the nicest joinery, but if it has the proportions of like the guy from Despicable Me, he's got those long skinny legs and the big body, it's gonna catch my attention, but in the wrong way. But also remember, if you like the proportions of the guy from Despicable Me, then go for it. There are no rules. So then the question is, how do you find the right proportions for a design? Hey, sorry, but before we answer that, let's take a minute to thank Brooklyn Bedding for sponsoring today's video. If you haven't heard of them, Brooklyn Bedding has been making mattresses for over 30 years. They design, assemble, and ship everything directly from their factory in Arizona, so your mattress is delivered directly to your front door for free, and that means you don't have to pay the middleman mattress showroom markup. Every mattress is made with premium materials and also comes with a limited lifetime warranty and a 120-night sleep trial, so you've got plenty of time to make sure it's the right fit for you. They sent me a queen-sized, medium-firm Sedona Elite mattress with a pillow top. Personally, I wanted something supportive but not too firm, cool to sleep on because I live in Texas, and something made with high-quality materials that didn't smell like chemicals when I opened up the box. It arrives rolled up like a burrito, which makes it super easy to move and unpack. And I have to say, the Sedona Elite checked all the boxes. It's comfortable, it sleeps cool, and it fit our bed frame perfectly. So if you're in the market for a new mattress, you can take their sleep quiz to figure out which one fits your sleep style. It only takes a minute, and I'd say it's a lot easier than going to a mattress store and awkwardly pretending to sleep in front of a bunch of people that you don't know. We're loving our Brooklyn Bedding mattress, and I can't see why you wouldn't also. So if you're in the market for a new mattress, go check out brooklynbedding.com or scan the QR code to get 30% off your mattress with code Sean Boyd. And if you want to support my channel a little bit more, let them know I sent you. All right, thanks Brooklyn Bedding. Back to it. A lot of people talk about the golden ratio or the rule of thirds, and there's plenty of other things like that that are basically guidelines or suggestions. And the funny thing about them is they're essentially things that we have noticed over time that are pleasing to people visually, but they aren't laws by any means. So instead of feeling like we have to abide by these rules, I much prefer to understand what they're describing and then understand the feeling that they provoke, and then try to get that feeling into my designs. An example, when I look at a Ferrari, I tend to have the feeling of, oh my, what a splendid looking automobile. Then when I look at something like a Fiat Multipla or whatever it's called, I have the feeling of, well, goddamn, that is one ugly looking car. And I'm not a car expert either, but I can recognize what I feel when looking at different cars, and it's that feeling that I try to tap into with my designs. And as we go from vibe to proportion, we can start to more easily recognize when something is or isn't working. If we're going for light and airy and something feels off, we can start to look at heavy aspects of the design. Or if we look at a sketch and our eye is immediately drawn to a specific aspect, we can really dial in on that thing, because chances are that's where the issue is. Because when a design is cohesive and proportional, we will tend to see it as a whole. So yeah, why proportion matters? Because it's the thing that decides if a piece feels right, even before your brain knows why. And it becomes the foundation for all the details that come later, so that then a piece not only looks great from 15 or 20 feet away, but also looks great up close. All right, next tip. Tip number 3, always consider material, because that's what the piece is actually made out of, and it would be crazy to not consider it. One thing I have never been is a wood grain freak. I really don't care much about crazy grain or wild figure. Don't get me wrong, it can look very cool, but it's just not something I really consider when designing. But that also doesn't mean I completely ignore material choices. It's almost like materials aren't necessarily dictating exactly what I'm gonna build, but they're kind of telling me what can and can't work, and just kind of helping steer the ship as I move towards my final design. There are really a ton of variables when it comes to selecting material for a design. So I'm gonna try to simplify, and this is now gonna become subsection 1 of the A in the Sean system. And this is the 3 C's of material selection: color, clarity, and cut. Probably the first thing I think about when it comes to material selection is the color. Pretty obvious. Do I want light or dark wood? Do I want to use one species or multiple? Should those species be similar or contrasting? What is cocobolo? And guess what? All of these decisions are part of the vibe. Here's a very real example. If I want something to be black, I always use red oak, not white oak. I get someone accusing me of painting white oak black every time I do this, but I wouldn't do it to white oak. But that's a good example. If I want something to be black, I'm always using red oak. Material selected. Second C, clarity. And I guess some people would call this character. Works the same either way. But if the material I have has a bunch of cracks or knots, stuff like that in it, it's gonna help guide where and how I use it. These types of character might look great on a big tabletop or drawer fronts, something like that, but they would not be a great idea to use in table legs or chair legs. Knots and cracks might end up being an interesting focal point visually, but they could also end up being why a chair leg breaks and leaves you embarrassed in front of your new father-in-law after you've just explained how you made all of these dining chairs with the same love and care that you're gonna give his beautiful daughter for the rest of your lives. All right, the third C of the 3 C's is cut, or essentially how you're gonna actually use the material. This is stuff like thickness, joinery, grain direction, whether or not you're gonna make veneer. Wood is a natural material and we have to treat it like one. It moves, it shifts, it changes color. and we just have to always keep that in mind. I often like to use wood, but make it not look like wood. But even with that mindset, I have to remember that it is still wood, so I have to understand its strengths and weaknesses and how to best utilize it for the vibe I'm going for. Example, I often like to make things with curves, so I have to think about the best way to get whatever particular curve I'm going for. Maybe it's something I'm gonna build a frame structure for, then add veneer. So I need to make sure I'm getting material that I can easily cut into veneer. Or maybe it's a curve that's best made from a bent lamination. So I need to get material that I can easily cut into a bunch of thin strips that can then be laminated together. Or maybe it's just like a two-dimensional curve. So I just have to make sure I'm getting boards wide enough where I have enough space to achieve those curves. So even though I started this section by saying that I'm not a wood grain freak, that doesn't mean I'm naive to the characteristics of wood. And understanding those characteristics and knowing how to incorporate them into your designs will only make you a better designer, no matter what vibe you're going for. Tip number 4, you can always make changes, and don't you ever let anyone tell you that you can't. A design isn't done until you say it's done, and even if it is done and you build it and then you still want to change something about it, you still can, because you can always make changes. Can you imagine if Carl Benz made the Benz Patent Motorwagen and we all said, yep, that's a car, no need to make any changes. We'd still all be driving around in this thing going 10 miles per hour. I like to think about making changes to a design in a few different ways, and one of those ways is small detail changes, and those usually happen while I'm still designing. These are small tweaks I'll make once the main aspects of a piece are done. They're the little things where I'll make a change, look at the design before and after the change, kind of feel if something is off or maybe it feels better. If it feels right, I keep it. If it feels wrong, I change it and try something else. They're all small changes, but they can totally affect the feel and vibe of a piece. Then there's the iterative changes, and I wish I got to do this more often because I think this is when designs really get great. You design it, you build it, then you tweak it when you make a second version. This way you get to see everything in real life, see it in action, test it, and you can make a bunch of changes in the new version. I think people rarely nail it on the first try, and if it seems like they did nail it on the first try, chances are they've been tweaking and changing things without you knowing. But also, it's fine if the first version isn't that great. We all thought the first iPhone was amazing when it came out.
You zoom in or zoom out by pinching or unpinching with your fingers. It's spectacular.
But now, compared to whatever version we're on, the first one kind of sucks because they've been improving every single one since then. Okay, the last one is to wait 10 years and make an entirely new version that's been iterated in your head a million times, but you never actually had the chance to build it. This is kind of the ultimate you can always make changes scenario, because even if a piece feels too old or too forgotten, it isn't. Look at car companies, they're bringing back old designs all the time. The Charger, the Integra, the Bronco, all of these had been discontinued and now they're back from the dead with a complete redesign. Sometimes this is the most wide open version of iteration. The ideas and parameters are so old that your new design path is so much broader than when you were designing version 1. When you're stuck in the minutia of version 1, you can almost get trapped by the limitations of what you've already come up with. So once you've completed that first version and let it exist long enough, the handcuffs are kind of off and you can really make the best version that you possibly can, or maybe it's the version that you really wanted to in the first place. And you're probably a better woodworker or welder or painter at this point. So, that kind of helps too. Last tip, tip number 5, no bad designs and no rules. I've been kind of hinting at this the entire video, but I think this is maybe the most important thing when it comes to design, or honestly being creative in anything. Just like there's no such thing as a stupid question, there is no such thing as a bad design idea, because at the end of the day, design is questioning. It's asking questions by trying new things, seeing if they work, tweaking things when they don't work, and really, bad design only happens when you don't let yourself try new things. It's also something super personal. You might be designing something for yourself, or for a neighbor, or for a specific spot in a specific place. And if you love the design, or the person that you're designing it for loves the design, and it serves the purpose it was meant for, it's a success. Every other person in the world could hate it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad design, because the people who matter are exactly that. They're the only ones whose opinion matter. At the same time, if your goal is to design something that the most amount of people will enjoy, then that's a different target, but that's fine too. Tweak things, switch materials, change proportion, iterate as much as you need to. Just keep going until you get there, until you and everyone else you want to enjoy it actually does. This whole video, and in particular this section, was inspired by a comment I got on my last video when I explained that I don't think there are rules in design. There aren't really any rules when it comes to design, at least none that I'm aware of. And someone replied by saying, well, actually, there are rules. And I totally get where they're coming from. There are principles and patterns and guidelines that we have observed over time, but honestly, it didn't really change my mind. Sure, you can't, or more accurately, I guess you shouldn't, design a table that falls apart when you set a plate on it. Or you can't design something that breaks the law. But beyond that, design whatever you want. And if you like it, that's really the only rule that I can think of. All right, thanks for watching this one. I know this was a little bit different. I don't often do videos where we get a little more thoughtful or whatever this is. So if you made it all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts about my thoughts about designing things, or you can just tell me to shut up and get back to building things. Though I will be honest with you, that one's gonna hurt my feelings a little bit. So I know I was afraid to try new things for a long time, and honestly, I still kind of am. There's that saying, you're your own harshest critic, but I don't know. The internet is a pretty harsh place. So if this video even encourages one person to go out there and try something that they've been afraid to try, then I think this is worth it. And at the end of the day, design, just like life, is all about moving forward one tiny decision at a time until it feels right. And if it doesn't feel right yet, that just means you're not done. So keep going.